Good. So the name of today's event is Pushkin on People Confronting Statues and Vice Versa. And we are delighted to be joined by David Brummell, who will be giving the introduction and then playing Leporello in The Stone Guest and the astrologer in The Tale of the Golden Cockerel. Also Adrian Keeley, who will be playing Don Juan in The Stone Guest. Lucy Daniels, who will play Dona Anna in The Stone Guest and narrate The Tale of the Golden Cockerel. Oleg Fedorov, who will play the Commendator in The Stone Guest and the Tsar in The Tale of the Golden Cockerel. And Anthony Wood, who will be reading The Bronze Horseman. And we're very privileged to have Alegelich reciting all of the Russian originals that we'll be hearing today. And we've earlier last week, in fact, we went into Pushkin House to film an amazing version of the Queen of Shama Khan's Hymn to the Sun from Rimsky-Korsakov's opera of the Golden Cockerel, with Julian Milone and Nadia Giliova playing violin and piano, respectively. So I will now hand over to David, who will introduce this event.
Thank you, Rafi, for that kind introduction. The evening will be in 3 parts. I'll be giving you, hopefully not too thorough an introduction, but sufficient for you to follow the reading of the extracts from the 3 Pushkin pieces we'll be doing later on. So first my introduction, then we'll have the musical interlude, or will be really a prelude to a reading from the 3 pieces. In 2 of those, we'll be also hearing from Alegelich in the Russian. Among Pushkin's outstanding poetic creations, 3 works stand out. Their titles don't refer to living creatures. They indicate a statue or a sculptural image. And in each case, the epithet denotes the material from which the statue or the sculpture is made. These works are the little tragedy, The Stone Guest, the narrative poem, The Bronze Horseman, and The Tale of the Golden Cockerel. The phenomenon of statues in Pushkin's poetic output was pointed out for the first time by the distinguished philologist Roman Jakobson in his book, The Statue in Pushkin's Mythology, a work that was published in 1937. The statue works have other similarities. Their contents were derived from foreign sources. The Stone Guest lists among its sources Molière's play Don Juan and Mozart's opera Don Giovanni. The Bronze Horseman was initially started by Pushkin as a response to the poetic cycle of the Polish poet Adam Mickiewicz, which was very hostile towards Peter the Great and his creation, St. Petersburg. And in 1933, Anna Akhmatova established that the Tale of the Golden Cockerel was based on the American writer Washington Irving's novella, The Legend of the Arabian Astrologer, from his Tales of Alhambra. In all 3 works, the action takes place in capital cities. The other remarkable feature common to the 3 works is that they were all written during the Borldina autumns of 1830, 1833, and 1834. The Stone Guest belongs to the rich harvest of the first Borldina autumn in 1830. The Bronze Horseman was the outstanding work of the second autumn in 1833. And The Tale of the Golden Cockerel was the only work written during the last and least fruitful Baldiner autumn of 1834. These autumn stays in Baldiner occupy a truly exceptional place in Pushkin's life. The first stay was a consequence of his proposing to Nadia Goncharova in the spring of 1830. This led to Pushkin's father transferring part of the Baldiner estate to him. The stay of 1833 happened after the conclusion of Pushkin's journey to the Volga and Ural provinces. These were the areas of Pugachev's rebellion in 1773 to 1775. This journey resulted in Pushkin's writing of a history of the Pugachev rebellion in 1834. The last stay in the autumn of 1834 was at a particularly unhappy stage in his life. Let me briefly remind you of the events leading up to this, as Pushkin's reaction to these events found both dramatic and poetic expression in The Tale of the Golden Cockerel. At the beginning of 1834, Pushkin had been appointed to the court post of Gentleman of the Chamber, or Kammerjunker, which is rather indecent at my age, he wrote. Generally, this post was reserved for men in their early 20s, and Pushkin was deeply offended by the Tsar's gracious favor. Indeed, he found it humiliating. Worse was to follow. His letters to his wife were intercepted by the police, and one of them was passed to Tsar Nicholas I to read. The poet had written to his wife, "I've seen 3 Tsars. The first commanded me to remove my baby cap." This was Tsar Paul I. Pushkin was less than 2 years old at the time. The second didn't like me at all. This was Tsar Alexander I, who had sent Pushkin into exile. The third made me a page boy in my old age. This letter resulted in an official warning to Pushkin against showing disrespect for the sovereign. Pushkin wrote in his diary, "The police open her husband's private letters to his wife and bring them to the Tsar. And the Tsar, a well brought up and honorable man, is not ashamed to admit it." Pushkin's response was formally to request Tsar Nicholas I to relieve him of any official duties and to allow him to retire to the country. He only asked that the Tsar allow him to continue working in the state archives so as to complete his history of Peter the Great. The Tsar answered icily that he had no intention of keeping the poet in government service against his will, but that a private individual could not be allowed access to the state archives. Pushkin had no choice but to retract his request for retirement. His poetic response to his encounter with the Tsar was the poem, "It's time, my love, it's time. Para, mój drug, para." It's possible that the poem, "May God grant that I lose not my mind," Nie daj mnie Bóg zajти z uma, was also written in response to this encounter with the Tsar, although the precise dating of that poem is uncertain. There is a clue to Pushkin's mental and physical state in the 6th and 7th lines of Para, mój drug, para. "Long have I dreamt of Eden. Long have I, a weary slave, contemplated flight. Davno ustali rab, zamyslil ya pobieg." In the autumn of 1834, Pushkin went to Baldiner, hoping for another miraculous surge of creativity. But when he was there, he had to state with sadness, "Poems no longer come into my head." So during his last stay in Baldiner, Pushkin, still bitter from his encounters with the Tsar, wrote just one work, The Tale of the Golden Cockerel. In this work, he was able to give eloquent expression to the deep resentment he felt at the indignities he had suffered in the course of 1834 at the hands of Tsar Nicholas I and agencies of the Russian state. I will now provide a brief outline of the plot in each of the three works, with particular reference to the statue motif, which is our theme tonight. First, the stone guest. Don Juan, who is described by other characters in the play as a sly seducer and godless libertine, has been sent into exile for having killed Don Alvaro in a duel. Don Alvaro is referred to in Pushkin's work as the Comendador, in Russian, simply Commandor. The play opens with Don Juan's unauthorized return to Madrid from exile. With his servant Leporello, he is hiding in a monastery, posing as a monk, when in the cemetery attached to the monastery, he encounters the Comendador's widow, Doña Ana. She has come to visit the grave of her late husband, the Comendador. A large statue of the Comendador looms over his grave. Don Juan reveals to Doña Ana that he is not a monk, but a nobleman called Don Diego, who has fallen in love with her. Doña Ana invites him to visit her at her house and leaves the monastery. The first excerpt we're going to read starts at this point, opening with a conversation between Don Juan and Leporello. Don Juan then arrogantly invites the statue of the Comendador to stand watch during his meeting with Doña Ana. The statue nods. The final scene of the play takes place during Don Juan's visit to Doña Ana's house, and we will be reading most of that scene. In the course of their meeting, Don Juan reveals his true identity, proclaims his undying love for Doña Ana, and kisses her. Suddenly, they hear the heavy steps of the stone Comendador. Doña Ana faints. The statue extends a hand to Don Juan. He boldly takes it. The statue tells Don Juan, "It's all over. Sio conchina." And they both descend through the floor. Now the Bronze Horseman. Many critics consider the Bronze Horseman, along with Eugene Onegin, as Pushkin's greatest achievement. In it, the poet addresses philosophical, political, and social issues and highlights the enduring theme of Russian history, the uncompromising nature of the relationship between ruler and ruled. The Bronze Horseman is simultaneously an ode to St. Petersburg and its creator, Peter the Great, and a reflection on the place of the common man in history and a hierarchy in which the ordinary citizen has no say at all. At the beginning of the poem, Pushkin talks about the construction of St. Petersburg and about Peter the Great, under whose leadership the city was built. Peter's achievements are symbolized in his monument, which became known as the Bronze Horseman, thanks to Pushkin's poem. What thoughts are pressing on that brow? Within him, what unbounded force? Какая дума на челе, какая сила в нем сокрыта. However, the main theme of the work is the situation of the small man, the ordinary resident of a big city. In the first part of the poem, the author describes the greatness of St. Petersburg, its streets, bridges, and white knights. He then introduces the reader to his hero, Yevgeny. Pushkin does not even give him a surname, emphasizing by this that Yevgeny could stand for any citizen of St. Petersburg at this time. Indeed, Yevgeny is just another ordinary resident of St. Petersburg, a petty civil servant who is in love with his sweetheart Parasha and is going to marry her. Parasha lives in a wooden house on the outskirts of the city. When the historic flood of 1824 begins, her house is washed away and Parasha dies. Pushkin's description of the flood is extremely powerful. The whole city is washed away and many people die. Only the monument to Peter proudly rises above the flooded city. Yevgeny saves himself by sitting on top of one of two marble lions in front of a mansion overlooking Senate Square. Pushkin describes him sitting there, surrounded by water and looking across at the statue of the Bronze Horseman. However, all his thoughts are about Parasha only. When the flood subsides and he eventually finds out that her house has been destroyed and that Parasha has died, he is absolutely crushed by what has happened and loses his sanity. The unfortunate Yevgeny forgets about his civil service duties and his rented room and becomes a homeless vagabond. One day, Yevgeny finds himself in the same place in Senate Square where he had been in the immediate aftermath of the flood. The excerpt which Anthony and then Alla are going to read starts at this point and will take us to the end of the poem. Yevgeny suddenly realizes who the guilty one is. Tsar Peter, who had built the city in a place prone to floods. In a fit of rage, he threatens the monument to Peter the Great, the Bronze Horseman. "Miracle builder, now," he hissed, "just you wait." However, his weakened mind plays a cruel joke on him, and it seems to Yevgeny that in response to the insult, the autocrat on the bronze horse gets off his pedestal and begins to pursue him. The story ends sadly. Yevgeny's body is found on the threshold of a little house which had been destroyed by the flood on a small island in the river Neva. Throughout the poem, there is a contrast between Yevgeny and Peter the Great, between the insignificant little man and state power. While the sovereign leads the whole country forward, he has no business with, nor any time for, the fate of ordinary people. And Yevgeny's quiet protest, expressed to the bronze monument, is a protest against such an attitude on the part of the autocratic state. But the fate that befell Yevgeny shows that even such an utterly harmless rebellion by an ordinary person is likely to attract a harsh response from the state. Thus, in the view of Roman Jakobson, in Pushkin's poem, the Bronze Horseman symbolizes Tsar Peter, the city of St. Petersburg, and the uncanny reach of autocracy over the lives of ordinary people. Now, the Golden Cockerel. Pushkin's tale is set in the land of Tsar Dadon, who is trying to protect his rich kingdom from hostile neighbors. Besieged on all sides and unable to protect his country, he sends for an astrologer, the wise man and eunuch, who seems to have the answer. The astrologer gives him a statuette of the Golden Cockerel, which, if set on a spire, in the event of any approaching danger, will crow and turn to face the direction from which Dadon's kingdom is threatened. The Tsar is so pleased that he promises to grant whatever wish the astrologer has, as if it were his very own. The magic cockerel proves to be the perfect guard for Tsar Dadon's kingdom, and bellicose neighbors are unable to invade. 2 years pass. The cockerel then crows on 3 separate occasions. On the first occasion, he crows to warn that an enemy army is advancing towards Tsar Dadon's land. The Tsar sends his elder son at the head of a mighty army to fight the approaching foe. The kingdom is saved, but the Tsar's son and army never return. The cockerel crows a second time, as another army is advancing to capture Dadon's land. This time he sends his younger son and another army. But once again, though the kingdom is saved, neither the son nor the army ever returns. The cockerel then crows for a third time, sounding the alarm that yet a third army is planning to invade. This time, Dadon himself leads the army to the farthest borders of his kingdom. On arriving there, he looks down a deep ravine and sees his dead army. To his horror, he discovers the body of his 2 sons, who it would appear have killed each other in front of a richly decorated tent. Tsar Dadon is overcome with grief, but suddenly the beautiful queen of Samarkand emerges from the tent, and Dadon immediately falls in love with her. He forgets the deaths of his sons and stays with the queen in her tent for 7 days. Then he and the queen of Samarkand leave together for his capital. Starting from this point, we will be reading the tale to the end. But in front of the capital's gates, they encounter the astrologer, who reminds Dadon of his promise and claims the enchanting queen for himself as his reward. Tsar Dadon is enraged and not only denies the astrologer his reward, but strikes him with his staff and kills him. Vsia stolitsa sodragнулась. The whole city, having witnessed the Tsar's crime, trembled with fear. The Golden Cockerel then flies down from its steeple and lands on Dadon's head. The statuette pecks Dadon to death for having killed its master, the astrologer. Some general observations on those 3 works. Roman Jakobson noted that a common feature of all 3 works is the vivid description of the sound of moving statues. The heavy stamping of the Bronze Horseman corresponds to the heavy shaking of the right hand of the Commendador statue and the heavy stamping of his steps. The light ringing of the Golden Cockerel's flight resembles the hard ringing galloping of the Bronze Horseman. Jakobson also pointed out that in all 3 works, the protagonist dies as a result of the intervention of a moving statue. In 2 of these cases, the statue itself embodied a deceased person. The Commendador in the monument above his grave, and Peter the Great in the Bronze Horseman. In the case of the Golden Cockerel, of course, it was the owner of the sculpture, the astrologer, who, quotes, became the deceased person. So in all these works, the statue can, to some extent, be seen as embodying death, and then putting to death those who in one way or another challenge it. In the case of the stone guest, it was the rebellious Don Juan who challenged the statue of the Comendador, the champion of order and morality. In the case of the Bronze Horseman, the ordinary man, the poor clerk Yevgeny, loses his sanity and challenges Peter the Great's statue, the embodiment of state authority and of the state's need to found a new capital. Both the stone guest and the Bronze Horseman convey Pushkin's pessimistic view on what the future holds for people who dare to challenge society's moral code or who dare to raise their voice against the state's empire building priorities which override the life and happiness of its subjects. The case of the Golden Cockerel is completely different. The cockerel is presented as an animated sculpture which can turn around and sound the alarm. It is a faithful defender, not only of the Tsar Dadon, but also of all the ordinary people of his kingdom, who, thanks to its intervention, are spared foreign invasion and can live in peace. After Dadon kills the astrologer, the lawless murderer, the Tsar, is punished for his crime by the cockerel with death. And in the last line of his tale, the author warns all future holders of power to take care not to trespass against the rule of law. This, my tale, although not true, holds a lesson, folk, for you. Сказка ложь, давней намек, добрым молодцам урок. It seems that Pushkin has never been so relevant to modern times as in 2020. We can see that in these three works by Pushkin, all the protagonists are either rebelling or trespassing, and that their rebellion or trespassing is thwarted or suppressed by the state, by the statue. Pushkin leaves us with a number of meaningful hints for the tale of the Golden Cockerel. However, the poet disguised these hints with great care, for the addressee of this charming fairy tale is Tsar Nicholas I himself. The quarrel between the astrologer and the Tsar has definite autobiographical features. The autobiographical hints are evident in Pushkin's manuscript. In a loose sheet, Pushkin had written, "But it is bad to quarrel with Tsars. No stariami plokha vzdorit." He suggested that such a quarrel could finish with the death of the Tsar's opponent. In the published edition of the work, however, this line was changed and shows clear signs of self-censorship. It reads, "But it's costly to fool with some people. No sinim nakladna vzdorit." These hints, as well as the ironic attitude displayed by the author towards the main character, Tsar Dadon, give reason to believe that the tale of the Golden Cockerel is a none too thinly veiled political satire, but one done with sufficient subtlety to get past the censor. In conclusion, in these three works, we have the tragedy of a man who rebelled against the strict mores of society, an epic poem in which the founder of St. Petersburg and the beautiful city which was his creation are glorified, but at the same time, the question is asked whether such great achievements should be founded on the suffering and sacrifice of ordinary people. And finally, a subtle political satire which the censorship was not able to crack. Tsar Nicholas forbade the publication of the Bronze Horseman. It was published only after Pushkin's death, with the editing which Pushkin's friend Zhukovsky had to agree to in order to get the work past the censor. But the Golden Cockerel was published immediately on its presentation, with only some minor deletions being demanded by the censor. And in all three works, moving statues play the most significant role. They either quench the rebellion or deliver justice. That is the end of my introduction, ladies and gentlemen. We're now going to see and hear a recording of an arrangement of the Queen of Shamakhan aria from Rimsky-Korsakov's opera, The Golden Cockerel. The recording is by Julian Milone, the violinist, and Nadia Giliova, the pianist. I'm delighted that both Julian and Nadia are here with us tonight on Zoom. Rafi will now arrange for the recording. Thank you, Julian and Nadia. And thank you, Rafi, for doing the recording. Now we are going to read excerpts from the three works I mentioned. Could I say first that we really are indebted to Anthony Wood, who has allowed us, or given us the permission to use his translations for all the readings this evening. Anthony is the leading Pushkinist in the English-speaking world, and I can highly recommend his recent book, Pushkin's Collected Poetry, which was published by Penguin Books in earlier this year in April. I should add that two of the works you'll be hearing from, The Bronze Horseman and The Tale of the Golden Cockerel, Anthony's translations of these works have been shortlisted for the Reed Translation Prize, and I gather from Anthony that the winner is going to be announced tomorrow. But we will first of all start the theatrical readings with a reading from The Stone Guest. Two excerpts.
Madrid, a monastery. Don Juan and Leporello stand in front of the tomb of the late Commendador.
You spoke to Doña Ana. She said a kindly word to you. You blessed her.
No, Leporello, no. An invitation from her, an invitation.
What are you saying? Oh, widows, all the same.
Oh, happiness. I want to sing out loud, embrace the world.
But what will the Commendador say now?
You think he will be jealous? Surely not. He's sensible. He must have cooled by now.
I'm not so sure. Look at his statue.
Well?
It's staring angrily at you, I think.
Go up to it and ask it, Leporello, to pay a call on me tomorrow evening. That is, on Doña Ana.
Ask the statue? Whatever for?
Oh, not for conversation. Ask it if it will come tomorrow evening to Doña Ana's house, but not too early, and stand beside the door on guard.
Always joking. This time, take care.
You ask it.
Me?
Go on.
Most excellent and gracious statue, Don Juan, for he is my master, humbly asks if you will come. I can't, I'm terrified.
Coward, just wait.
I'll try again. My master, Don Juan, most humbly asks if you will come tomorrow evening to your widow's house and stand beside the door.
Statue nods affirmatively.
Ah!
What's the matter?
My end has come.
What is it?
The statue.
Why are you buying?
It nodded.
Fool.
You speak to it.
Watch me, then, lily liver. My good Commendador, tomorrow evening, come to your widow's house. I shall be there, and may I ask, stand watch beside the door. You'll come?
The statue nods again.
Oh, God!
You see now.
Come away!
Next scene, a room in Doña Ana's house.
You torture me, a dark and murderous secret. I'm curious. How could you injure me? I do not know you. I have no enemies. I've only one, my husband's murderer.
So now to business. Now tell me, That unfortunate Don Juan, you knew him, I suppose.
I never saw him.
But is there hatred for him in your soul?
By honor's law, I think you tried, Don Diego, to turn me from my question. I demand.
Suppose you met him now.
I'd take a dagger and stab the villain's heart.
Then take your dagger. Here is my heart.
Don Diego, what do you mean?
I am not Diego. I am Juan.
Oh, God. No, no, I don't believe you.
I am Don Juan.
Not true.
I killed your husband and I've no remorse.
What do I hear? It cannot be. No, no, no.
I am Don Juan. I love you.
I feel faint. Where am I?
God in heaven, what's the matter? Doña Ana, wake up! Get up! Your slave is at your feet.
Leave me. You are my deadly foe. You took from me all that I had.
Incomparable creature, I am resolved to expiate my deed. Here at your feet I kneel to know your will. At your command I am prepared to die or live for you alone.
This is Don Juan.
The same who is described to you, no doubt, as criminal and monster. Doña Ana, perhaps report is not entirely false. Perhaps upon a tried and weary conscience there lies a weight of evil. Long was I a model pupil of debauchery, but Doña Ana, since I saw you first, my inmost being has changed. In love with you, I am in love with virtue. Now at last, on trembling knees, I humbly bend before it.
Don Juan, I know too well, is eloquent. And also, I have heard a sly seducer, a godless libertine, a very demon. How many helpless women have you ruined?
None have I loved till now.
You'd have me think I am the first Don Juan has ever loved. He doesn't seek one victim more in me.
Supposing I intended to deceive you, would I reveal myself? Pronounce the name you cannot bear to hear. What guile in this?
Who knows you? Who could say? How could you dare come here? If someone recognized you, death.
And what is death? For one sweet hour with you, I'd give my life without a murmur.
But so rashly here, how will you leave unseen?
You care that poor Don Juan might come to harm. Then Doña Ana's blessed soul contains no hatred for me.
Would that I could hate you. Now we must part.
When shall we meet again?
I cannot say.
Tomorrow.
Where though?
Here.
Oh, Don Juan, I am weak of heart.
One kiss, a pledge of pardon.
Go.
One cool, cold kiss.
Ah, how relentlessly you press. Well, here then. Who is it knocking? Hi, Don Juan.
Bye, until we meet again, my fair one.
Exit, then comes running back.
Ah!
What is it? Oh!
Enter the statue of the Commendador. Doña Ana has swooned.
You invited me.
Oh God! Oh, Doña Ana!
Leave her. All is finished. Don Juan, you tremble.
Not at all. I did invite you. Now I'm very glad you've come.
Give me your hand.
How hard this clasp of stone. Let go my hand. My end has come. All is finished now. Oh, Diana!
They sink out of sight.
Anthony Wood and Ala Gellick will now read the final passages of the Bronze Horseman.
And on a palisaded rock, the bronzen idol, hand held high, rode above him in the dark. Yevgeny trembled. In his mind, all was dreadfully defined. How could he not recognize where he had seen the grim waves spill, the waters in rebellion rise, the lions, the square, while stark and still, he whose indomitable will had raised a city from the sea, towered in bronze above it. He, fearsome from the gloom below. What thoughts are pressing on that brow? Within him, what unbounded force? What fire comes flashing from that horse? Where, proud stallion, are you bound? Where will your hooves put down to ground? Destiny's great lord and master, was it not exactly thus your iron bridle reared up Russia upon the brink of the abyss? Around the idol's pedestal, the madman now began to pace. His poor wild eyes saw face to face the ruler over half the world. His chest was tight. He pressed his brow against cold railings. Fire ran through his heart. His blood was boiling over. His gaze was visionless in mist. Before the mighty image, somber he stood, and clenching teeth and fist, as if possessed by some dark power. Miracle builder, now, he hissed, just you wait. The awesome Tsar, it seemed, had slowly turned his head. In mounting rage, begun to glare. Headlong across the empty square he ran, behind him as he fled, like rumbling thunder, hooves resounding upon the shaken thoroughfare. And all night long, astride his bounding steed, the horseman, hand held high, outstretched beneath the moonlit sky, followed Yevgeny, and no matter whither the poor madman bent his steps, with heavy echoing clatter, after him the horseman went. Whenever next he chanced to pass that square, he would be overtaken by inner turmoil. He would press his heart as if to ease its aching, take off his threadbare cap. His gaze he could not bring himself to raise. He kept his distance. Off the shore, a tiny islet can be seen. There a fisherman will moor, out fishing late, bring in his seine and cook his meagre supper. Or a clerk will of a Sunday row to that place where no blade will grow. The Flooded Borneo in its sport, a time-worn little house. Above the waves, like some black bush it stood. Last spring, a wherry took it off, empty and ruined. They discovered my madman on its threshold. There, upon that spot, his corpse was covered and was committed to God's care.
И прямо в темной вышине, над огражденную скалою, кумир с простертой рукою сидел на бронзовом коне. Евгений вздрогнул. Прояснились в нем страшно мысли. Он узнал то место, где потоп играл, где волны хищные толпились, бунтуя злобно вкруг него, и львов, и площадь, и того, кто неподвижно возвышался во мраке медную головой, того, чьей волей роковой под морем город основался. Ужасен он в окрестной мгле. Какая дума на челе, какая сила в нем сокрыта, а всем коне какой огонь! Куда ты скачешь, гордый конь, и где опустишь ты копыта? О мощный властелин судьбы! Не так ли ты над самой бездной, на высоте, уздой железной, Россию поднял на дыбы? Вокруг подножия кумира безумец бедный обошел и взоры дикие навел на лик державца полумира. Стеснилась грудь его, чело к решетке хладной прилегло, глаза подернулись туманом, по сердцу пламень пробежал, вскипела кровь. Он мрачен стал пред горделивым истуканом, и зубы стиснув, пальцы сжав, как обуянной силой черной: «Добро, строитель чудотворный!» — шепнул он злобно задрожав. «Ужо тебе!» И вдруг стремглав бежать пустился. Показалось ему, что грозного царя, мгновенно гневом возгоря, лицо тихонько обращалось. И он по площади пустой бежит и слышит за собой, как будто грома грохотанье, тяжело-звонкое скаканье по потрясенной мостовой. И озарен луною бледной, простерши руку в вышине, за ним несется всадник медный на звонко скачущем коне. И во всю ночь безумец бедный, куда стопы не обращал, за ним повсюду всадник медный с тяжелым топотом скакал. Остров малый на взморье виден. Иногда причалит с неводом туда рыбак на ловле запоздалый и бедный ужин свой варит. Или чиновник посетит, гуляя в лодке, в воскресенье пустынный остров. Не взросло там ни былинки. Наводненье туда, играя, занесло домишко ветхий. Над водою остался он, как черный куст. Его прошедшую весною свезли на барке. Был он пуст и весь разрушен. У порога нашли безумца моего, и тут же хладный труп его похоронили ради Бога.
Anthony.
Hello.
Well, we're now going to read an excerpt from The Tale of the Golden Cockerel. So this is, as David said in his introduction earlier, the return of the Tsar with the Shamakan queen. Then the Tsar, so long delayed with his warriors and the maid, set off on his journey home by the route that he had come. All the way, before him flew rumour, true and not so true. From the town gates, with a shout, all the people hurried out, hailed the chariot from afar, ran behind the queen and Tsar. All were greeted by Dadon. Now, he sees amidst the throng, in the wise man's hat and tunic all swan white, his friend, the eunuch.
Father, what have you to say? Closer. What's your business, pray?
Thus the wise man to the Tsar. Let us clear accounts now, sire. Long ago you promised me, for my services in fee, whatsoever was my will, as your own you would fulfill. Give me therefore, sire, the queen. Give me the Shamakan queen.
Answered Sardadon in thunder. How this is my own, I wonder. Has the devil seized your wits? So I promised, it befits age and wisdom to maintain limits. You to ask the queen? Don't you know then who I am? Ask for gold, a noble name, horses from the royal stud, half my kingdom if you would.
No, sire, none of these. The queen. Give me the Shamakan queen, said the wise man to the Tsar.
Devil take you. You, I swear, sped the Tsar, will never win her. You torment yourself, you sinner. Off, while you possess your soul. Take away this dog-daring fool.
Still, the old man would persist. Best with some, though not insist, prompt the rod upon his brow, down. But this time not to bow, dead he dropped. The people shuddered. No lament the maiden uttered, ha ha ha, and he, unafraid of sin was she. Tsar Dadon, alarmed the while, turned on her a tender smile. On he drove towards the town, came a gentle ringing. Down, full in view of all the people, flew the cockerel from its steeple, met the chariot as it sped, perched upon the Tsar's bare head, pecked it, plumes a ruffle, flew up and off into the blue. On that instant, Tsar Dadon fell and perished with one groan. Only vanished was the queen, quite as if she'd never been. This, our tale, although not true, holds a lesson, folk, for you.
Наконец и в путь обратный со своею силой ратной из девицы молодой царь отправился домой. Перед ним молва бежала, быль и небыль разглашала. Под столицей, близ ворот, с шумом встретил их народ. Все бегут за колесницей, за Додоном и царицей, всех приветствует Додон. Вдруг в толпе увидел он в сорочинской шапке белой, весь как лебедь посиделый, старый друг его, скопец. «А, здорово, мой отец!» — молвил царь ему. «Что скажешь? Подь поближе. Что прикажешь?» «Царь», — ответствует мудрец, — «разочтемся, наконец. Помнишь, за мою услугу обещался мне, как другу, волю первую мою ты исполнить как свою. Подаришь ты мне девицу, шамаханскую царицу». Крайне царь был изумлен. «Что ты?» — старцу молвил он. «Или бес в тебя вернулся, или ты с ума рехнулся? Что ты в голову забрал? Я, конечно, обещал, но всему же есть граница. И зачем тебе девица?» «Полно, знаешь ли, кто я? Попроси ты у меня хоть казну, хоть чин боярский, хоть коня с конюшни царской, хоть полцарства моего. Не хочу я ничего, подари ты мне девицу, шамаханскую царицу», — говорит мудрец в ответ. Тьфу, плюнул царь. «Так лих же, нет, и ничего ты не получишь, сам себя ты, грешник, мучишь. Убирайся, цел пока, оттащите старика». Старичок хотел заспорить, но с иным накладно вздорить. Царь хватил его жезлом по лбу, тот упал ничком, да и дух вон. Вся столица содрогнулась, а девица хи-хи-хи, да ха-ха-ха, не боится знать греха. Царь хоть был встревожен сильно, усмехнулся ей умильно. Вот въезжает в город он. Вдруг раздался легкий звон, и в глазах у всей столицы петушок спорхнул со спицы. К колеснице полетел и царю на теме сел. Встрепенулся, клюнул в темя и взвился. И в то же время с колесницы пал Додон. Охнул раз, и умер он. А царица вдруг пропала, будто вовсе не бывало. Сказка — ложь, да в ней намек. Добрым молодцам урок.
Thank you. That is the end of our performance, ladies and gentlemen. We're very happy to take any questions or to discuss any points you'd like to raise. And thank you all for coming. I hope you enjoyed it.
All of our performers and to David as well.
No question.
For organising it as well. I think it was absolutely wonderful. chosen excerpts as well.
There are some chat messages.
Yeah, we're getting a few messages in the chat. So,
Rafi, anyone who would like to ask a question, can they raise their hand? Or
you should be able to. Yeah, I think I can see that.
yeah.
We have the comment wonderful from Yelena from California. Yelena from San Jose, California.
There must be.
Tatiana, it was lovely. Thank you so much. From Alexandra's iPad, wonderful. Thank you.
Was William Powell at Cease with me in the 80s? It's a familiar name.
Yeah, that is I.
Oh my God!
And you're partly responsible for my logging in today.
Oh!
So there we are, hands across the sea, etc., or across the years.
Yeah. Oh, how lovely.
Well, thank you, William, for coming.
Where's William?
He's in the dark. He's not showing his face.
I see. Oh, he is now.
Oh, he is.
William, good evening.
Well.
I mean, I'm wondering how we managed to hear William when he's muted. There's a mute symbol.
Well, he's muted now. Can you speak, William?
Yeah, I can now. I was clicking on the wrong icon. Anyway, yeah, it's a very good evening. It took me back. I think I first read the Bronze Horseman. I did Russian at school when I was about 16, so that's about 30 years ago. No, 40 years ago.
More than 30 years ago if you were at Cease with me.
40 years ago. I remember the day we had an essay to do continuity and unity in the Bronze Horseman. That was my first brush with Pushkin. It was a really, really moving experience, even then.
Yeah. Oh.
Refi, could I say something?
Sure.
Can I say something?
Yeah.
Of course.
Okay. A memory of mine from St. Petersburg in midwinter. I was walking at the bottom of the Nevsky Prospect towards the river, and it suddenly got colder and colder. And my Russian friend turned to me and said, "Peter the Great must have been mad to found a city here."
Well, having heard about his...
What it was, yeah. It was not an ideal location for a capital city or any city. And the brilliance of Pushkin's work, well, many people have commented on this, apart from anything else, it can be understood on many different levels, but it just highlights that point, the human suffering that ensued. And it was of no concern to the ruler that happened. That was the necessary price to pay. But what is wonderful about Pushkin, the political message isn't the sole be all and end all. It's a wonderful artistic work, and it's on many different levels. I think that's why we enjoyed just linking these three works together. I hadn't thought of that before, and then we discovered this work by Jakobson, and it's quite amazing. I think one can overanalyze the symbolism. I think they're all wonderful works. But the eye-opener for me was really the tale of the Golden Cockerel, which I had thought of as a really lovely, charming fairy tale.
Yes.
The more I thought about it, it's obviously got relevance to the time and the particular experiences Pushkin suffered at the hands of the Tsar in the early 19th century. But the general concept that the ruler himself or herself should not be above the law, it's incredibly powerful, that message. By the way, I was discussing this with Anthony, and the Ode to Liberty, Pushkin's wonderful celebration of freedom and liberty, it took me straight to that. And there's a wonderful celebration. There are a couple of lines in there about the fact that the ruler, however high the ruler is, he is not above the law. And it's quite amazing that well, Pushkin was saying that in the 1830s. It's a message that, well, frankly, all countries need to observe. But this is not meant to be a heavy duty sort of political symbolism type presentation. It's on different levels. I thought the music was great. Thank you, by the way,
Fantastic.
Julian and Nadia. That was wonderful.
It was
It was
so
wonderful seeing you.
sweet.
You did the recording in Pushkin House.
Yes.
It was
Yes,
it was
we did.
incredibly sweet, really sweet music, beautiful.
Oh, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
Thank you. It was
Excuse me,
wonderful.
Angelina, all right, has a question.
Angelina, yes? Oh, yes. Rafi, can you unmute Angelina? Nadia.
Just quickly, Anthony, which of your translations are the Reed Prize?
And Simon has a question as well.
Yeah. Simon's asking
Okay,
his
are you
translations are...
reading the
Yes.
chat?
But Rafi, can you
yeah,
invite one of the two questioners to put their question?
I've
Simon Gagan.
yeah.
He doesn't have a camera, but he's there.
So his question.
But what about Angelina?
Angelina as well, yeah.
I've asked Angelina to unmute, but if not, she can type it into the. She's unmuted.
Hello?
Oh.
Hello?
Yeah.
Hello.
Hello.
Yes, we can hear you.
Can you hear me? Sorry, I'm not sure if my connection is very good.
We can hear
Yes, we can hear you. We can hear you.
Oh, great. I was just wondering, thank you so much for introducing the work of Jakobsen in relation to, this kind of mythologizing and the kind of this motif of the statues. I was just wondering if the speaker was familiar with, there's this, in St. Petersburg, I lived there for many years, there's this theater called Kukolny Format, and they have a beautiful performance actually kind of based on some of the ideas you touched upon today. It's called Vsadnik Kuprum. I'm not sure if you're aware of it.
I'm not, no, not personally. Thank you.
Maybe I should send it in the chat, but...
Could you? Yes, we'd be very interested.
It brings the statue kind of alive, and it brings the city alive in a very kind of three-dimensional way. It's actually a puppet theater, but it's a wonderful performance, and it really kind of, it really embodies what you spoke about today. That's what I found quite startling.
Oh, well, I'd be honestly, well, all of us would be, we've all been inspired by this. It was, I won't say quite how the idea took root in us, but we then found this wonderful work by Jakobson and others, and I would be very, I'm sure Alla and others, Lucy and Anthony and everyone would be very interested to hear that. Are you in St. Petersburg now, by the way?
No, I am currently in Dresden, but I lived there for 13 years. I'm half Russian, so I moved from St. Petersburg.
Well, this is the wonderful thing with the Zoom internet, that during this period where we are having people who are attending from the United States, from Australia, from Russia, and Germany and France, and it's great to have your views. But please, if you could send those to Rafi maybe, and I'm sure he would at Pushkin House, he will circulate those to us. We'd be very interested. Alla, would you like to comment on that?
On what?
On what Angelina just said.
Sorry, I can't remember the question.
Oh, I was just wondering if the speaker, if any of you were familiar with the, maybe is it better in Russian or is it better in English, or?
Можете по-русски, да, с удовольствием, да.
Просто в Питере есть такой театр «Кукольный формат», и у них есть, у них такая пьеса, такой спектакль называется «Всадник Купром». И как раз это такое воплощение того, о чем вы говорили сегодня. Поэтому просто для меня это такое удивительное открытие, что Якобсон написал об этом, и ребята там в Питере, ну, по-моему, они как-то старались это визуально, да, показать в плане кукольного театра, и, ну, и все этих героев, да, петербургской мифологии, все такое. Поэтому, ну, я сейчас пришлю тогда в чате. Просто мне было интересно, если кто-то из участников посмотрели этот спектакль.
Ну так я не знаю, что тут комментировать. You commented it yourself very nicely about the doll format. The picture is taken from the Заповедник from the Echo Москвы. It's on YouTube, Заповедник. They comment on the political events every week. If you are interested in such things, just YouTube and in English Заповедник, and you'll see a lot of dolls.
Ну, я сейчас пришлю всем. Да, спасибо еще раз всем. Thanks everybody again for that. It's great.
Спасибо вам, Angelina.
Now Simon.
Simon, yes.
Can
Simon be?
Simon doesn't have a camera on his
Simon doesn't
computer.
want to speak on camera, but his question is just which of the translations are up for the Reed Prize?
Yes, that's for Anthony too.
That's for Anthony, yeah.
Yes, Anthony.
What was the question?
Which of your
translations are up for the Reed Prize? Simon is also a translator. Hello, Simon.
The Bronze Horseman and The Tale of the Golden Cockerel. But the point is, the whole book in which they are, the whole book is up for the prize. It's called Selected Poetry of Pushkin. It has 10 narrative poems and 80-something lyric poems. So these two poems are just taken, one of the many poems in that selection. Well, we'll know, we hope we'll know tomorrow. But I bet we won't. I bet they'll be late on it. But they've been discussing the shortlist for 6 weeks. I think they're having an argument.
Yeah. Roger Cockerel, you have a question.
Yeah. Right. No, I was just wondering if Putin reads Pushkin.
Yes. And Lermontov, he quoted it. Lermontov.
Does he?
And Kipling and Mowgli.
Well, Putin reads Kipling.
Yes.
Does Trump read Pushkin?
No.
No.
Just in the light of what David said earlier, I'm looking forward to it. I thought as a precursor to tonight's debate between Biden and Trump. Yeah, what you said about leaders and Pushkin. I'd make him a present of Anthony's volume. Yeah.
Wish we could speak to him direct. We would. Just you wait.
But I don't think Biden, I don't want to make a political point, I doubt if Biden reads much Pushkin.
Either.
They're too busy, these American politicians. American businessmen don't have time to read newspapers even. Well, of course, that's dépassé now, I know.
But I've got to say, I think probably of the current politicians' generation, I'd be surprised if the Russians weren't better read than either the Americans or the British.
Could I just say something about the Bronze Horseman, the text? As Pushkin wrote it, it was first published in Russia in 1978, not before.
Goodness, yeah.
Completely uncensored, untampered with by the posthumous editor Zhukovsky, with capital B for God.
1978?
Yeah, instead of the lowercase Soviet spelling of God with a small G or B. Yeah, in 1978, everything was as Pushkin wrote it. But before that, it was not quite the same.
I didn't know that. I thought it was pretty intact for the during the Soviet period, during the 30s
Nearly,
and
but
40s.
not completely.
Ah. Did
So
you know
the
that?
full edition of Pushkin is not full
So does that mean it was censored?
because it was published before 1978.
Yes, you're right. You're absolutely right. Yes.
So was it just minus capital letters, or were there other differences, substantial differences, more meaningful differences?
No, not substantial. No, not substantial.
Oh, right. Yeah.
Had it been censored during the Tsarist period as well, then?
Yeah. Oleg, I did like your crown.
Oh, we've got to give a shout out to my nephew for Oleg's crown.
Yes, it's
wonderful.
fantastic.
It is fantastic.
Made by my nephew, Atticus George Coulter Lemos Smith.
Yeah.
Aged
Very
5.
good. Yeah.
But Oleg, you frightened me both as the stone guest, as the Commendador, and as the Tsar. I wouldn't have raised the query in that way as the astrologer did, faced with such a forbidding and daunting presence. I don't think it was very wise of the wise man to do that.
Silly man.
Silly man, yeah.
All right.
Well,
Right.
any more questions?
Well, by the way, thank you again to Julian and Nadia. That was wonderful.
Yes.
It set the scene beautifully for the readings.
Well, thank you very much.
No, thank you. Absolutely.
Yeah. It's really nice to get out of the house.
Well, no, when I saw that you had done it at Pushkin House, it was wonderful because
Yeah, it was
great as these Zoom events are, I think we're all looking forward to returning to the physical meetings and performances.
Yes.
Yes.
Great.
What's happening with Nadia's camera? She's like a very blurred picture all the time.
Where's Nadia?
Yeah. What's that? Not clear. Probably some problem on your computer, on your lens.
Difficult to fix at the moment, perhaps.
Nadia.
Yeah, I suppose there's not really much point fixing it now either.
Yeah.
But thank you all.
We can see you.
And we'll see you next month with.
Right. Any other comments? Any co-performers? Would you like to give a view as to how you think it went?
Up there, it says, what does that say?
It says, hello, the camera's on you.
Yes, there's a question here.
Oh, question. Yes, please put a question.
Speak.
Can you hear me?
Yes, we can. Yes.
Yes.
Right. Thanks. It's actually to Alla. Hearing her speak Russian and looking out at us like that reminded me that many years ago she came to the town where we live, Frank and I, which is Cheltenham, and
Yes.
Anthony was put on a Pushkin event. I think it was Pushkin in Love.
Yes, yes, it was.
Yes.
Yeah.
And people were reading Pushkin in English, the translations, and Alla was there to do the Russian. The people who were reading in English had their books and their papers and were reading. Alla stood in front of the audience, looked out one leg in front of, and declaimed the Russian all from memory.
Of course.
And it was just wonderful and memorable.
And at the end of it all, a lot of people walked away weeping.
Delia, it's so nice to see you after so many years.
And you, and to hear you and your wonderful Russian.
And you haven't changed at all.
How were you reading from Sanskrit?
No.
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 He was reading from her mind.
It's just amazing. Thank you. Thank you.
One rehearsal land, wasn't it?
No, reciting from her heart.
Heart and mind.
Heart and mind, yeah.
Thank you so much.
Well, thank you for
No,
that
but
comment.
thanks for coming. I was so surprised that you came. It's thanks to Anthony, of course.
Yeah, thank you to
The night will be remembered perhaps in 40 years' time.
Oh, don't depress us, right? Say in 10 years' time. I don't think we should look too far ahead. Roger has another question. Roger Cockerel, yes?
Yes, just a comment really. I mean, I just loved the whole evening. I'm saying this because I've got to go in a minute. But
not at all, not at all.
Thank you very much indeed. I loved the translations, I loved the reading, but I also liked the illustrations, David, first of all. Some of those wonderful things from Yevgeny Vsadnik. That one with the Bronze Horseman chasing little Yevgeny down the street was brilliant. Is that Benoit?
Yes. Yeah.
Yeah, well, I mean, it's just, and the ones for the Golden Cockerel too, I thought.
Yeah, well, those were new for me. I knew the others before, but I thought to, because it's quite difficult. I mean, it was quite an ambitious undertaking, and we couldn't read the whole works, but then to select parts of the works, and some of the audience, of course, would know the plots back to front. So we thought, well, we must try and give an idea of what each work is about. But the illustrations, I think, do help it. And I hope the main idea of the Bronze Horseman is a magnificent work. You can't cover it in 10, 15 minutes. It would be impertinent to do so. But with those illustrations, I think it helps just to give an idea of what Pushkin was about.
Yeah.
Well, thank you for that. That's
I just wanted to say thank you because I got to go. But thank you.
Okay, no, lovely to see you, Roger.
Lovely evening.
See you
Bye-bye.
again. See you again in the future. Yeah.
Yeah. Right.
All the best.
Bye-bye.
Bye. Bye.
Bye.